Here's a shocking one. I could not believe this. The Miami Dolphins have fired their head coach, Brian Flores, after 3 years. The word is shocking. Last year in 2020, their team went 10-6. They just barely missed a playoff appearance. And this year they went 9-8 also, just barely, narrowly missing a playoff appearance. They started 1-7 this year. That's not good. But they went on a 7-game winning streak, finished the year 9-8. And, really firing Brian Flores in this moment honestly reminds me of when the Detroit Lions fired Jim Caldwell. It's kind of a moment of like, what? Like, you're winning. You're doing well. Like, you're building towards something. Why would you pull the plug now? And it seems to me ungrateful. I want to ask, this is a real, legitimate question. Who are the Miami Dolphins going to hire? Like, who's going to do a better job than Brian Flores did the last 2 years at taking what Adam Gase ran into the ground and turning it around in Miami? So Brian Flores did all the hard work of turning around the culture and building a good roster and building the team up, and then potentially another coach could come in and steal all the credit. I don't know what's going to happen there, but there's not a lot of great options for the Miami Dolphins to hire. And I think the best possible coach they could have had next year was Brian Flores. Like, what the heck? I don't get it. Now, Brian Flores is not perfect. He's not without fault. He's a defensive-minded head coach, which means that he does not coach on offense. And he's not been very good at hiring coaches on the offensive side of the ball. Miami really needs someone who can help their young quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa. And I would almost wonder, does firing Brian Flores mean that Miami is resigned to the fact that they're stuck with Tua Tagovailoa? Does it mean and stuck is the wrong word there. It felt very clear Miami was pushing very, very hard to get Deshaun Watson. And I wonder, have they given up on that dream? Are they like, we're not getting Deshaun, we're going to stick with Tua and build around him? And I think the only way you can justify firing Brian Flores is if you are bringing in someone like Kellen Moore or someone like that to Brian Dable maybe from Buffalo, somebody who's an offensive-minded head coach who will be the driving force behind you building your team around Tua and getting someone on offense who can coach Tua very closely. The same way the Rams did with Sean McVay in L.A. or the Bengals did with Zach Taylor in Cincinnati with Joe Burrow. Like, are you going to get an offensive coach who can be the right hand on the hip pocket of Tua Tagovailoa next year? That's possible, but that's the only reason I can think of firing Brian Flores that can be justified is that, well, he's not an offensive coach who wants someone on offense to help develop our young quarterback. So is Miami planning to stick with Tua? I think that actually might be the sign here of that. I would be pissed. If I was Brian Flores, I'd be like, are you kidding me? You were awful. An awful organization. And you went from Adam Gase to me. I turned the culture around. I beat the Patriots. I went 10-6, 9-8. I was building momentum. I never got an offensive line. I got this young quarterback I'm developing. And you pull the plug now after all this stuff? I would be furious. And I think Brian Flores has every right to be upset after getting fired. He did a good job in Miami. And I don't know that he should run off and become a head coach somewhere else. I think it's always fine to take a little bit of time and assess all your options. But I would not be shocked if Brian Flores got hired somewhere. The same way Ron Rivera got fired by the Carolina Panthers and immediately got hired by Washington. I think we could see Brian Flores very quickly turn around and become a head coach somewhere else. But again, I still say, if you're a team that's a quarterback, as a young quarterback who needs to be developed, I don't know if that's going to work. I think you need to find – I think Brian Flores somewhere like maybe Minnesota that has an established quarterback, something like that where he doesn't need to develop a young guy could be an ideal situation. And I don't know that there's a lot of those available right now. I'm trying to think of the teams that are going to need a head coach, and I'm like, where does Brian Flores fit in? I don't know. But keep your eye on that because Brian Flores will most likely become a head coach very quickly again in the NFL because he did a good job, but I thought unjustly got fired by Miami.